Welcome back to the Naiad Cup. I'm Arbor Andy, and round 3 of the tournament has been complete, so let's take a look at the teams that we're running today. So Bob's team is running Lapras, Defense Deoxys, Mew, Greedent, Altaria, and Escavalier. Now our Altaria can't see this Lapras due to the ice typing. Defense Deoxys can do up okay against us. Mew can be a problem by spamming the Dragon Claws. And the opposing Altaria has a lower CP, which might mean a higher attack, so it's got less bulk, but it does more damage. The Altaria and Escavalier match is funny. Both resist each other's standard movesets, but 2 shields down, 2 Mega Horns actually KO, so shields are needed for that match. Jellicent is actually a great Escavalier counter, just has to watch out for Mew and Greedent, as Mew has access to Wild Charge and Greedent is a normal type where our nuke is resisted, and it's got access to Crunch, which is super effective against our Ghost. And Pelipper is another great Escavalier counter, it just the opponent has 4 other answers, being like Lapras. With the ice it does neutral to Pelipper and our weather balls are resisted. Defense Deoxys, it's got Rock Slide and Thunderbolt. Mew's got Wild Charge. The water's resisted on the Altaria. So the Toilet Bird continues to warm the bench as we have better Escavalier answers. And with 2 counter users on the team, I'm hesitant to bring the walrein, as both are losing matchups. It even loses in the 2s to both Escavalier and DD, whereas Greedent has Crunch and can hold its own and flip mid-game. So Galvantula is also looking pretty good. It can handle the Water type on the Lapras, Psychic type on the Defense Deoxys and Mew, and the Altaria does neutral, and it's got Lunge for a debuff, also another great Escavalier counter. So for the first team, I'm going to be using Galvantula on lead. Every match is either positive or neutral for us, Greedent on the safe swap, and Jellicent as the closer. So let's take a look at round 3 in the Naiad Cup. Hopping into the first battle, Galvantula into Mew. Pretty positive for us, as Bug Deal's super effective to Psychic. Mew decides to stay in and build up some energy, so I'm going to go straight for the Lunge. Lunge is not that great a move, but Mew is pretty glassy, so it will one-shot or warrant a shield from the Mew. The opponent shields, and we safe swap into Greedent. They did not build up to a Wild Charge. It also would have been resisted on the Galvantula, so it's just the debuff Dragon Claw. We can tank that, and we've baited out the Escavalier. This is exactly what we wanted to do. This Crunch is not resisted up against the Escavalier, and it could get the defense drop. So let's see what the opponent decides to do. It does a good chunk of damage to Escavalier, and they continue to farm, but they're getting greedy for Greedent as they let us get to yet another Crunch. We didn't get the debuff, but this Crunch will be getting the Escavalier quite low in the Great League. It gets him deep in the red, and the opponent realizes that they're going to have to throw because they might get farmed down. The counters are super effective, and the Bullet Seeds are double resisted, but we can let Greedent go down here and safely come in with Galvantula and farm down. They're not at drill run number 2, so 1 Volt Switch does KO, and we will have to see what the opponent comes in with. The Mew match is negative, so what is their third? They do come in with the third, which is Altaria, which is okay for us. We're going to build up a little bit of energy as much as we dare, and I'm going to go for the Lunge. This Lunge will debuff the Altaria's attack and will allow us to get to a second move. I should have gone for the Discharge, as Discharge is neutral, but we survived just enough to get another one off, and this will be getting the Altaria pretty low. I'm leaving it all up to double shielded Jellicent, as Jellicent can also deal with the Mew. We get farmed down, which is not ideal, because they get to a move as we come back in with the Jellicent. It was debatable that I used the shield here because the Altaria was debuffed, but Sky Attack is a hard-hitting move. The only problem is we have to call a bait here with the Mew. They need to build up to back-to-back Wild Charges. We call a bait, it's just a Dragon Claw, and we get to live to see another day with Jellicent. We need to bait here as well. Shadow Ball will be taking them out, so we need to build up to the Shadow Ball. They fall for the bait, and we will outpace them to Shadow Ball because they need double Wild Charge to get there. They do not, and this Shadow Ball will be taking care of the Mew. It is super effective up against the Psychic type. We just have to hope that we can deal with the Altaria coming back in. We're trying to Hex down, and they're out of move. This is okay because we still have a shield, and they did not reach the back-to-back. We just have to see if they did reach the back-to-back. Sky Attack coming through. They did not, and we Hex down for the win. We're going to use the same team as we did in the last match because I think it worked pretty well. This time we lead into Altaria. This is okay, but I'm going to immediately save swap into Greedent and hope to bait out the Escavalier. The opponent is staying in, so I'm going to go ahead and throw a Crunch and hope for the debuff so that our Body Slams do more. Crunch does not get Stab, this Body Slam does. The opponent lets it go through, and then we see the pivot into Escav. Smart on their part, letting us throw our energy, but on the bright side, Greedent outpaces the Escav, and we get to our second Crunch. This is about a third of Escav's health as we saw in the last match. They're getting greedy again, as they're going to let us get to a third Crunch. The opponent is not debuffed, so it will not KO, but it will get them deep in the red. Let's see what the opponent decides to do. They shield, we get the debuff, and they farm us down. This is okay. I can come in with the Galvantula and farm down, but the opponent has built up a ton of energy. They're almost at the back-to-back draw runs, so we have to shield one of these despite it being neutral. Galvantula is pretty squishy, the bug resists, and the Electric Take's super effective. They get to the second one, and we have to let this go through. We need to save the shield for Jellicent because we haven't seen their third. Draw Run does about 2/3 of Galvantula's health, but we're able to farm down and come out with a ton of energy. We have to see what their third is. It is the Altaria, and we go for the Discharge this time, not the Resisted Lunge. We want to do some chip damage before we go down, but we're going to pivot into Jellicent so we don't get farmed down, and the opponent is staying in. We're going to go for the Shadow Ball here, but the opponent makes a beautiful catch onto their Greedent. You absolutely hate to see it. But what we love to see is a word from our sponsor. Do you have problems acquiring ELO? Are you hard countered by the algorithm? Start climbing in GBL today with Silph Co Master Pass. Win every lead. Win every swap. No more getting RPS'd. Hit Legend today with Silph Co Master Pass. See you up there. We had some time for that after we threw the game there. We just have to play out the long, grueling death for Silph here. Nothing that Jellicent could do. Or a dead Galv. So Body Slam takes us out, and that's a good game. So for the last match, we're running more of an ABB style team, weak to counter in the back, hoping to bait it out. We encounter the Altaria on the lead again this time. We can immediately safe swap into Greedent and hope to bait out Escavalier. They try to catch a Crunch, but to no avail. We've built up to the back-to-back Crunches already because of the late swap, so we will see what the opponent decides to do. This one will do a solid amount of damage to the Escavalier. We get the defense drop, so I'm going to go for the second Crunch right away, and this will be KOing the Escavalier if they don't decide to shield. Greedent gets the shield from the Escavalier, and we get another defense drop, so I'm going to go for the Body Slam, but they win CMP. I could have shielded here and gotten the Escavalier deep in the red, but I'm going to let them take us out and come back in with the Galvantula as their defense has dropped twice. We will have to eat one drill run here, so I'm going to let the first one go through, and it does way more damage than the first one did in the other match, but we're able to farm down. Still wondering how that one did more damage than the last. When we see the Altaria come in here, and I should have saved the Discharge and swapped into the walrein right away, but I'm going to throw it here for some chip damage, and hopefully I can get ahead on energy with the walrein. Walrein coming in, and the Altaria decides to stay in for a bit, and they catch an Icicle Spear on the Greedent, so no Jellicent up against the Greedent this time. Fortunately, we have the Icicle Spears. The Icicle Spear does enough chip damage, but Greedent is pretty tanky. We're going to have to start shielding something at some point here because I have to save some health on walrein. And we're just going to be spamming out Icicle Spears and Body Slams at each other. This second Icicle Spear will do a nice amount of chip damage to the Greedent. As we can see, the third one will KO if they let it go through. They're at Body Slam number 2, so I have to let this go through and save a shield in the end game. My plan here is to farm up to 2 Icicle Spears on the walrein, but I can't farm down on the Greedent, so I have to throw here. Otherwise, the next Body Slam would have really hurt, and we would have gotten sniped by the Altaria. They let it go through, and they're out of move. This is not too bad because we can shield the Sky Attack and hopefully farm down or reach an Icicle Spear and catch on the Galv. Unfortunately, they are at another move. So they've built up a ton of energy, and I'm still thinking that I should have saved this Discharge. The Sky Attack will take us out, and we get Dragon Breath down and take a heartbreaking loss. So we take a heartbreaking 1-2 loss on the day. Some very close games, so GG's to my opponent, very well played, and good luck in the rest of the tournament. We have a bye in the round 4, so we'll be back with round 5 and the conclusion to the tournament. If you enjoyed the video, remember to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. It really helps me out, build the community, because there will be more Naiad Cup and Pokemon Go content like this in the future. So thank you guys so much for watching. I've been Arbor Andy, and I'll see you buds in the next one.